Before we jump into some Broncos minicamp winners and losers, we are doing a like challenge here at Chat Sports in the month of June. So I'll make it really simple for you guys. If you hate the Chiefs, like the video. If you hate the Raiders, like the video. Or if you hate the Chargers, like the video. I don't see how you don't apply to one of these three groups, so make sure you hit that thumbs up icon to start today's show. What's going on, Broncos Country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, breaking down some minicamp winners and losers, all right? So after just 2 days of minicamp, because head coach Nathaniel Hackett called off the third and final day of minicamp. Not going to use the F word. That's not applying here. But for some team bonding exercises today. Initially, I'll say I was skeptical of this. First-year head coach, knew everything, right? New quarterback and all of that. Why pass up on a practice? But it is just June, and these practices I don't think really do a whole lot, honestly. It's more just so they can be out there and have the guys moving around. So if they want to do team bonding, I'm not going to lose any sleep over this. Now, let's get into my winners, though. We're going to start on the offensive side. I go with Melvin Gordon, a guy who's kind of been a loser-ish. Now, again, I should preface with winners and losers, take with whatever a notch above a grain of salt is, because it's not even padded practices, so you can't be that big of a winner or that big of a loser. But I'm going with Melvin Gordon as my winner because after being a no-show during OTAs, he of course shows up for mandatory minicamp like everyone did. There was no unexcused absences, no one in the midst of a holdout and whatnot. But Melvin Gordon, if you didn't see it, had some pretty interesting things to say about the battle for the running back position. I know a lot of people want me to take the back seat. I'm not going to lay down. Me and Javonte are going to do our thing. I've been sharing the ball since being in the league. So, not surprised here that Melvin Gordon doesn't want to back down. And also you got to remember, Melvin Gordon signed a one-year contract worth up to $4 million. A lot of that $4 million is incentives-based, which means he's got to reach X amount of yards or touchdowns to get a lot of his money. And can you fault the guy? It's a business. I mean, he's not really, he doesn't give a shit about my fantasy football aspirations because how awesome Javonte Williams could be without a ball and chain next to him like Melvin Gordon this year, right? He's a competitor. This is the NFL. He's not just going to roll over and be like, all right, I'm going to hand it off to the second-year guy. I'll just chill in the background. I'll bring waters out. How about that? Every time out, I'm going to be the water guy. That's not what he's going to do. So with that in mind, I want to pose this kind of a off-the-wall question to you guys. Name a random Broncos running back. It's got to be random. You can't go easy and say no Sean Moreno or Terrell Davis. Like Peyton Hillis level of random. Let me know how random you can get down below. My next minicamp winner is Albert Okwuegbunam. He's been a bit of a loser, so time for me to, pivot a little bit and give him some love and some praise because he was awesome in day one of minicamp and in day two. So now it's his turn in the spotlight. After everything, all the attention on Greg Dulcich, right? The big tight end out of UCLA, the fun, exciting draft pick, and everyone's already, a little bit of me, I'm in this camp as well, maybe ahead of our skis a little, and already looking ahead, handing the job off to Dulcich. No, Albert O was very impressive throughout minicamp. In fact, he even noticed his new offensive coordinator, Justin Outten, who said this on Albert O. He's a very talented player. He's a very explosive player. Just kind of honing in on the details, allowing him to come through with all of his talent instead of just limiting himself to one aspect or another. So this is supposed to be Albert O's big breakout season. Now that Noah Fant is in Seattle, all the spotlight's on him, right? Through only 18 games in his career, 3 touchdowns, 451 yards. He hasn't really had an opportunity to break through, but the Missouri target should have an awesome chance to do that now for the Broncos. So, with that being said, before we check out some other winners, we had a morning meeting here at Chat Sports talking about what other NFL channels we could open up next. And someone tossed out the Chargers. We've already got a Chiefs channel. We've got a Raiders channel. We've got a Broncos channel. I want the Chargers channel to be the 32nd channel we open here at Chat Sports. So we got to get to 8,200 subscribers or else next one up is going to be the Chargers. 23 subs away. If you haven't already and you want free Broncos content, hit that subscribe button. Next winner is Dre'Mont Jones. This is a guy we've talked about more and more lately because he has been catching more and more eyeballs. He has been making a ton of plays on defense, batting down passes. And again, when it's non-padded practices and you can't sack the quarterback and you are a defensive end, you can't do a whole lot to catch a lot of attention. Despite that, he has been getting a lot of praise and attention. In fact, he was asked during a Q&A with a reporter about what it's like going up against Russell Wilson, how it's difficult, and he said no. Reporter says, why? And he says, I'm good at football. That's what I think. That's why. So he is my breakout sleeper candidate. I mean, we'll do some more breakout candidates later on throughout the summer, but he is definitely one to put in your little tickler file of like, keep an eye on Dre'Mont Jones. 5.5 sacks last season. It was second on the team behind Shelby Harris. You haven't seen Bradley Chubb stay healthy since his rookie year. You've never seen Randy Gregory play a full season. Why can't it be Dre'Mont Jones maybe who takes that huge step forward for the Broncos in the pass rushing department? But who's your sleeper breakout candidate, right? Could you go with someone like KJ Hamler coming off the ACL injury? A lot of people talking about how he could be Russell Wilson's Tyler Lockett in Denver. Let me know down below. Fourth and final minicamp winner is you. It's Broncos Country. So give yourself a pat on the back for actually witnessing what's been a very fun and exciting offseason. I would say this has been the best offseason for the Broncos in 10 years. Now, I'm not just talking about what they did in free agency, the draft, or trades. I'm talking about through OTAs and minicamp. This has been a very exciting offseason. There hasn't been a lot of worrisome or doubt. I would say since Peyton Manning came over to Denver, this has been the best offseason for the Broncos. So honestly, shout out to you guys for putting up with, some tough stuff lately, right? Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco conversations. Those aren't fun. Russell Wilson, that is fun. And Dre'Mont Jones, he recognizes that too. Here's what he said about the difference between Vic Fangio offseason and Nathaniel Hackett offseason. It's extremely different, like night and day. And I will say, not a shot, but Coach Hackett's more day, Vic a little more night. You got to really be in the locker room to maybe fully appreciate or understand the difference between the two, but there is definitely something to what's going on now compared to the years past for the Broncos. Before we check out my losers from minicamp, we've got a great deal and a sale going on at Fanatics. It's a hot summer, so if you want to rep your Broncos gear but stay cool while doing so, check out chatsports.com/Broncos shirts. I put that link for you in the comments and the description for a 25% off Broncos t-shirt. Get it today. That way you're repping the blue and orange while also staying cool in the summer months. On to my minicamp losers. Greg Dulcich, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. No apologies here. Because he's been a winner when we did OTAs, winners, and whatnot, but now he's on the other side because it's only fair. If Albert O was a loser while Dulcich was a winner, you got to flip-flop, right? So Greg Dulcich did not participate during minicamp due to an undisclosed injury. Hackett's been a little secretive on some of these injuries. I wouldn't have any takeaway from that necessarily, but he just says it's a precautionary measure. It's June. We're not going to push it. So to me, you got to stub toe, take a seat on the bench. They're not pushing anyone in the month of June, especially after the Tyree Cleveland scare, which luckily came back negative, the MRI test, and just an ankle sprain, it appears, and not anything worse than maybe initially anticipated. So no reason to push the envelope. I will add this. The tight end battle, I think, will probably be one of the three most exciting battles throughout all of training camp. A little bit of the right tackle battle between Billy Turner and Calvin Anderson, but Dulcich versus Albert O is going to be one hell of a battle to watch throughout the preseason and really into the first couple weeks of the season. So pick a tight end for me. Who do you think is going to be the Broncos starting tight end week 1? If you think it's Dulcich, you can put his jersey number 80 down below, or if you think it's going to be Allo, you can put 85 in the comments section. I will add this to kind of put a bow on the tight end conversation. We've seen a ton of great stuff out of Dulcich, but it's all been non-padded practices. What's it going to be like when he lines up and he's got to block Bradley Chubb or Randy Gregory and he doesn't have a lot of blocking experience, okay? That's where I think he might hit a bit of a speed bump. Meanwhile, Albert O has been doing that for a couple years now, so he's going to be able to maybe excel in that department. And coaches aren't going to put tight ends on the field that can't block. They can't just do a little bit of blocking, at least early in their rookie season. So just keep that in mind. It's not all about who looks good when they're wide open in June and there's no defense being played. What can they do in real padded practices? My next minicamp loser is Javonte Williams. I kind of stick with the same thread here. If Melvin Gordon's a winner, Williams is a loser. Now, he's not a real loser, but he kind of goes on just this half of the table. So Melvin Gordon said a lot of things yesterday talking to the press, and I thought this was also an interesting quote he had. George Paton, when I was at the negotiating table with him, I told him I'm not going to lay down. I've always had that mindset that I've got to go get it. There's always someone they're bringing in to take your job. So you're Javonte Williams. You don't love to see that, right? Because you'd rather have the entire spotlight to yourself with maybe some help, some carries being spotted here and there. I am curious to see what the workload balance will look like for the Broncos and Javonte Williams and Gordon this year, because they were dead even on carries last year. 203 carries apiece. So I'm thinking it's going to be Javonte Williams getting 65% of the carries and Melvin Gordon getting 30%, and then Mike Boone takes the rest, takes the other scraps off the table. So somewhere in that range. But Melvin Gordon, who was almost a 1,000-yard rusher last year and had 10 touchdowns altogether, he shows something like that. They're not just going to bench him because Williams was a second-round pick and he's got tons of awesome potential. Final minicamp loser is Billy Turner. Not a real loser, but just gives me an opportunity to talk about Turner and kind of provide an update on the injury front for Billy Turner. And the update is, there really is no update. He hasn't participated this entire offseason so far. He hasn't been at practices. He failed a physical with the Packers back in March with a knee injury, and that's ultimately what led to him being released from Green Bay. And then Broncos said, all right, well, we don't want to allocate a ton of funds to the right tackle position, at least this year. Let's bring Turner in. We at least know the guy a little bit. He's started his career off in Denver. But it would be nice to see him participate a little bit. It's only June, so don't be hitting the panic button at all. But there's a little bit of concern because it's still new, right? At least the head coach, Hackett, from Green Bay. You know the offensive coordinator, Outten, from Green Bay. And you also know the team in the city because you started your career off in Denver. So that helps a lot smoothing over this process. But last year, Billy Turner wasn't turning heads for the Packers. PFF ranked him the 50th best tackle out of 83. Overall grade of 67.1. Could be better, could be worse. I wouldn't say middle of the road, but he isn't, this awesome, future franchise tackle for the Broncos. It's probably a one-year tryout. If he impresses, they'll give him another year, another 2 years. If not, they'll go to the draft and try to find a more long-term solution. I'm hopeful that he will be ready by training camp because even though he has these familiarities and these connections with the team already, you're still the right tackle for a Russell Wilson offense. And we know Russ loves to extend plays, move his feet around. He's also been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in his time in the NFL. So I'd like to have a little bit of a connection between the quarterback and the right tackle for the Broncos. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us on today's show. I appreciate everyone that made us a part of your day, and we'll see you later with more Broncos news and rumors.